Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Yes We Can podcast. Today, I have a dear friend, Randalynn Vasel, on today to talk about her journey and story through cancer, both, her cancer and many, many family members. And she's going to share her journey and also what she's doing to make a difference because she's got a lot going on. So, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So, let's talk about first, who you are, where you come from. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. So I live here in St. Louis. Originally grew up in super rural area, just about an hour from here.
Okay.
So that will come into play probably with my cancer story.
Okay.
I am a single mom to two amazing kiddos. They're now 16 and almost 13. And so that's really exciting for me. I would say advocate, awareness creator, adventurer extraordinaire. And I just happen to be a cancer survivor, 2 different types, and then 1 preventatively. And so, yeah, I'm a lot of things.
You're a lot of things. And I know when I first met you, was at an event with Joanna.
Yeah.
And you radiated, like light just radiated from you. And you were so genuine
Thanks.
and empathetic. And, I don't know, was Kyle battling or had my husband passed?
He was not yet battling. So the first time we met, I think, was when Joanna had the Lululemon, the ambassador thing,
Yes.
where we put her,
Yes.
we were all shopping.
Yes.
And so Kyle hadn't yet.
Okay. Was he there?
He was not.
Okay. So yes, we have a common friend, Joanna Hayden, a dear friend of both of ours, who is an amazing human. She was diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer and beat it and is now thriving and doing amazing things. And so that's where we originally met. So we met before my husband was diagnosed.
Yep,
Okay.
we did. Yep.
Okay, I couldn't remember because a lot of the past is fuzzy and a lot has happened since then.
Yes.
So, anywho, okay. So, grew up in a rural, small town.
Grew up in a super small town. So Greenville, Illinois.
Okay.
It's about 45, 60 minutes, depending on, my parents are saying it's over as they're listening to this. But, depending on what that traffic looks like and maybe who the driver is.
Who the driver is, hilarious.
And my entire life until I moved to St. Louis to go to school. And I only took like a little bit of a break. And I've been here ever since I was about 18, 19 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I would say most of my life was pretty normal, average, what you would say. I did all of the things. Got married, got divorced.
How old were you when you got married?
Yeah. So I was 28.
Okay.
It's 2008.
And what were you doing? What was your career choice? What did you do? What did you study?
So at that point in time, so I had a marketing and a finance degree from St. Louis University, and I was at that time, what was I? I would have been like kind of in between. So I was like real estate development in the Central West End, and potentially, depending on where we were, with a local bank here in St. Louis, really working in their commercial division.
Okay.
Versus like retail.
Yeah. Okay. And so how'd you and your husband meet?
Through a mutual friend.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so met late 20s.
Yep.
Got married.
Was
he from here?
He was from just south of here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And had kids quickly, or how did that
so pretty quickly. So Olivia would have been born December 2009, so about a year and change after we would have gotten married. So we got married in July of 2008. She was born in December of 2009. Jackson joined the crew in June of 2013, and I would have asked for my now ex-husband to move out October 2014. So Jackson was just over a year old. And we kind of decided it was in our best interest
to go separate ways. What is his birthday? June.
Oh, he's June 5th.
Okay, because I have my middle daughter's June 11th, and Cora's, my oldest, is June 21st.
June is like a big birthday month.
A big birthday month.
So my my sister-in-law had her first child same time Jackson was born, and they are 4 hours apart, but different birth dates. So I was like 9 p.m. and she was like
That's wild.
1 something a.m.
Well, it's also funny. So we also have another mutual friend, Ann Tobin, who is a 3-time cancer survivor. She's been on the show. I was talking to her on the way down here, and she was totally singing your praises and, of course, wanted to say hi. But her daughters, so Molly and Lucy, Molly and Cora are literally days apart.
Yeah.
Like, same year, days apart. And so are Leah and Lucy.
Okay.
Days
That's
apart.
fantastic.
It's wild. It's totally wild.
Yeah. Anne Anne plays a really big role in my initial, how I was diagnosed. I knew her husband because we worked together.
That's right.
And coincidentally, we had done a Hockey Fights Cancer. So the organization I was with at that time had a large sponsorship with the Blues. Anne was, for us, our survivor that we kind of featured on Fox Sports, and we did different and interviews and things like that. And then like 2 months later, I would have been, maybe it was only a month later.
You were diagnosed.
I was diagnosed.
So which cancer? Was it the breast cancer or the sarcoma that she...
It was the sarcoma.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would have been 2000. We did Hockey Fights Cancer in like November, December 2016, and I would have been divorced. I'm divorced. Oh my gosh, diagnosed. See, D's.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both the death. Ish.
Diagnosed in January 2017, so super close.
Okay. Yeah, and Nan is an amazing human, and she plays a huge role in a part of my story, the healing portion of my story. We were fast friends, and she was there through. I had, last year was a really rough year, and she was by my side. And now with her being diagnosed, it's like we've like switched roles. Obviously, she's super strong, and is super close to her faith, and so she is just amazing. And I mentioned earlier before the camera started rolling, but her treatment is working. Just found out her tumor has reduced by 50%.
Which is fantastic.
Which is amazing because it's her 3rd time around. And so the treatment's working, which is amazing. So all good stuff.
All good stuff.
So you get divorced. You have a 1-year-old and a...
She had just turned 5.
5.
She was in the process of turning 5.
Okay.
During everything. He would have turned 2 shortly after the papers were signed. We were getting in the groove of like, how does this co-parenting thing work? Because for those of you that get divorced without kids, you kind of don't have to see your ex. And for those of you that get divorced with children, you have another, I have 18 years tacked on because Jackson was so long of trying to navigate like what that looks like. And
So did you know him for you didn't know him for 18 years?
No, but Jackson's like, was a year old.
Got
and
it.
So like if you go,
I get it.
Yeah. So that side of things probably longer than that, right? Like they'll go to college and have weddings and grandkids and whatnot, right?
Yes.
So it's like forever bonded.
Yeah.
And about 18 months after all of that would have been settled was when I received the diagnosis that I had ovarian cancer. And then when I did the debulking procedure, would find out I also had endometrial cancer as well, which was not I don't talk a whole lot about it. It wasn't the primary focus of my treatment, and it wasn't what was potentially going to take my life. And so while it played a part in like, did I have to do 4 rounds or did I have to do the full gamut of 6 rounds? That's more where it came into play versus like, oh, we got to attack this one. Nope, that was just like, you've got this little extra bonus here.
Oh, goody.
So we're going to add on 2 more rounds. But so there was that. And I had to have a couple more like different testing done to make sure I didn't have a couple of genetic pieces because you normally don't find both at the same time.
Very rare. Yeah. And I also want to point out too, I don't know about for you, but a lot of people compare what I've been through to divorce. And there are a lot of similarities. I mean, it's different, but there is the death of something. And I sit here and think, I can't imagine, Kyle still being alive and not being my husband and having to, like, I can't imagine what you all, divorcees have gone through. Before we even get to cancer.
Yeah. So I would say, so this is me going to say, like, I really don't like that someone compared that to
Oh, yeah.
for you. Like, that's not right. And so I'll say it a little bit differently. When I was 23, I lost my boyfriend suddenly. He unfortunately had epilepsy,
And died?
and he
Oh, he
passed
passed
away.
away.
I was 23. His sister was 17 at the time. She's now one of my best friends. And so I stayed connected I'm 46, so just to give you guys an idea of like how close I was with this family. And I
Right.
remember somebody equating it like this to me. Oh, my boyfriend broke up or my girlfriend broke up with me. I now know what it feels like. And I was like, no, time out. Like for me to like say like I got divorced and Kyle passed away. You can never talk to Kyle, you can't yell at him, you can't get back together with him, you can't all of these things. Whereas if I wanted to, or how people would have compared it to me, like I now know what it feels like. No, you don't. Like maybe 6 months down the road, you're going to like get back together with this person. I don't have the opportunity to do that. So
Right.
I would say it is they are both very life-changing situations
Yes.
in very drastically different ways.
Correct. Yes. Yes. But
And we all
is-
have to learn to navigate them. And I do think it comes with some kind of grief component
Yes.
potentially, right?
Yes.
And it's probably like grieving the life that I thought that I would have had or my children would have had. It was more like for my children. For me, it was like whatever. But for them, it's like something that we're still continually navigating.
navigating. Right.
But like the loss of a human being actually physically being here on earth versus like a part of your life, I think it's like, that's me just saying like,
yeah.
that felt not great for me
Yeah.
to hear
It's,
that.
right. It's different. But when people compare, I'm just like, I know, like, just exactly what you said, like the loss of what you thought life was going to be.
Yeah.
And for your children, it's going to
Yep.
look different.
Yeah.
And like for my children, which is different than divorced parents, they're going to continue to grieve the loss of Kyle at every stage of life.
100%.
And that's something that I'm just now kind of realizing. It's like now our head is above water. We've been through what we've been through the last 3 years. And now I'm facing like things with Dane, not having a male figure around.
Yep.
And I'm like, I should probably figure that out. Get him into some sports, which I am. He's now the age to be able to
Yeah.
do that. But also, introducing to him some of Kyle's best friends, some
Yeah.
strong male figures. And our neighbor, who's amazing, is going to start having Dane help with yard work and mulching and doing the things that dads would have done. Because I want Dane to have that.
Yep. And I think it becomes like, how do you find that that mentor for them?
Yes.
If you will, because like as a mom, you're there. For me, the same thing, right? It's super easy for me to make sure that all of Olivia's needs are taken care of. Because I am her mom and I'm
Right.
there. But like when it's the three of us at home, we've got that like absence of a male figure in the house. And so for me, like similar to you, my dad, both of my parents have played a super active role.
Awesome.
For single parents out there that don't have someone local, like huge shout out to you because I don't know how you do it. And I like you are case in point. You don't have your family here. Mine is about an hour away, but they drive in multiple times a week to be able
Awesome.
to like support us and always be there. So my dad's that. I have other friends that their husbands will step in, very similar to your situation. And so I do think it's like getting creative in the ways in which they have those figures in their life,
Right.
knowing that there's never going to be that replacement
Of Kyle.
of Kyle for you, or
Totally.
like a whole family for me, if you will, or a traditional family setting.
Correct. Yes, totally. And my dad has been awesome. Like they come when they can. They're in Omaha. They're very busy. They're both attorneys. My dad and my stepmom, and they come. They don't miss birthdays.
Yeah.
They don't miss Grandparents' Day. I mean, they send me flowers on occasions when Kyle would have sent me flowers. Like they have been really awesome and have a great relationship with my children.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for that. But again, it's like every other month-ish that we see them, and then Kyle's brother, Scott, who it was darling the other day, we're walking and, Kyle's death anniversary is Friday. And, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about Kyle and what we're going to do on his death anniversary. And I'm about to launch a campaign to raise a bunch of money,
Yeah.
which we can talk more about that if you'd like, because you do the same thing. And anyway, so Dane was like, Mom, we're walking, and he's like, I really miss Daddy. I'm like, I know, honey, you do. I know, and I miss him too. And he was like, but you know what? Uncle Scott is a lot like Dad. And I'm like, you're right, honey. He
Yeah.
is. So, like, I'm so thankful that Kyle's brother has stepped in, and he and his wife FaceTime us, and
Awesome.
they do visit, and we go out there and spend time on the farm. And so he has those male figures. It's just not daily or weekly.
Right.
So I need to be, like you said, get creative. So anyway, I assume your kids have a great relationship with your ex-husband.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a great dad.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All in
Good.
those things. We live within a mile and a half of each other, which
Okay.
feels odd. Same little neighborhood area. We do not live in the same section of that neighborhood area. I know other divorced parents that have similar setups. It actually works really well for, like, back in the day when Olivia drives now, but back in the day when I didn't have a driver, really well for dropping things off if they forgot something, doing
Yes.
exchanges. It wasn't their fault that we got divorced. And so for that, that's always been at the forefront of my mind. Like, if I was going, because I was the one that made the decision, if I was going to make this decision, then I also needed to understand that everything I did was going to need to be like, how do I make this as easiest as possible for them? And so it's worked.
Good.
Yeah.
And then one last question on that, and then I do want to move over to your
Yeah.
diagnosis and how you found the cancer. But are either one of you dating? Have you dated? Is there someone else? Because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. So he got married really quickly.
Oh, okay.
And or within 2 years. That they got, actually, when I was going through everything, they got married that summer. And then, do I date? The answer is no, not actively. I think for a while, right? Like, you want to know in the beginning, after getting divorced, is there still that possibility for me? And then I got sick, and I think for me, I went through stages of like, let me date these random people that I probably knew I was not going to be with long term. But I needed to know that, like, somebody was going to date me.
You still
I
got
could
it.
I could still date somebody,
Right.
and me having cancer wasn't an issue.
Correct.
And then I think the longer, because I'm 11 years out from being divorced, 9 years out from the cancer diagnosis, my children are now 16 and almost 13. My priorities are probably like shifted away from
Of course.
like, how do you find that person? And if it feels like I got to fit them into my life, it's challenging.
Right.
So it's probably that I just don't actively
Right.
look.
Well,
It's
and
not that I wouldn't be open to it.
totally.
I'm fairly independent though too, so I think that's kind of like, how do you find that balance of somebody that could be a good fit, but like also understanding that, like, hey, I've got like 2 days a week I'm available. So, like,
Right.
how do you fit yourself into there
Well-
and not make it feel like to them like you got to fit into these 2 days, because hopefully they're just as independent, and so that's not as
Totally.
easy to find.
Well, and if it's God's plan,
Right.
it'll
Exactly.
happen. And you're a beautiful, amazing woman
Thanks, I
from the
appreciate
inside
that.
out. And I can't wait to get more into your cancer story. But I think about it because all, divorcees and even widows, like, it's that, dare I say, hole in your life that partner that's not there.
Yeah.
And so it's just something that's there, like, on the shelf.
Yeah. I think it's probably going to be like chapter 2 of my life, which I
Yeah.
feel like I'm on multiple chapters. So
Oh,
somebody's
yes.
going to hear this and be like, like, you're way into the book. And I'm going to be
Yeah.
like, okay. But to where, like, once the kids are out of the house, once I've done that responsibility that I
Yeah.
had, then I have that ability to, like, shift that a
Yeah.
little bit, because they're only with me for, like, she's 2 years going to be out and to college,
Yeah.
and we'll go do that, and then he'll have a few years left, and then
Yeah.
we'll figure all that out. Not that they won't be with me, but they'll be with me less, and so
Yeah.
maybe my focus can shift.
Yeah. And again, I see a cross on your chest.
Yeah.
So you,
Yep.
obviously are a Christian and
Yep.
believe God's got a plan.
100%.
And, yeah, it'll be there if it's meant to be.
Exactly.
So, okay. So let's move on to finding your
Yeah.
cancer. How did all that go down?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed in January of 2017, but if I take us back, probably like 6 months, there's a couple of things to know about ovarian cancer. It shows up early on in different ways that could look like digestive disorders, IBS, regular, like run-of-the-mill stress-related things, or maybe even female, like related that you wouldn't even, you're bloated, your periods are off, things like that. I, unfortunately, when I get stressed out, am not a stress eater. I actually don't eat. And so things were stressful. If I look back at pictures from July of 2016, you can start to see that the weight is like falling off of me.
What were
So,
you stressed about at that time?
come the fall, there were some things going on at work where I
Okay.
was. And so, there were going to be some shifts in my job. There were going to be some shifts in the leader that I was working with. All of it hadn't been disclosed yet, but we could kind of see that the writing was on
Writing
the
on the
wall,
wall.
right?
Yep.
And it becomes like, oh my gosh, I'm a single parent. Am I going to have a job? Like, what happens to him? What goes, like, where do I shift within the organization? Do I stay where I am? Because all of these unknowns, right?
Right.
And I would say October timeframe is when it got really bad, and I probably was going through bottles of Tums. And so, because I had heartburn, and I've never had heartburn, but I had heartburn like you wouldn't believe. And then, let's say November, December timeframe, my back was killing me, and I was like, this is so weird. And I would go get like massages 2 times a week, like that's how bad it was hurting me. And then December rolled around, and I didn't have the kids between Christmas and New Year's, and I checked to see what did the weather look like in Naples. Can I go down there and just use the house? And it looked great. And so I called one of my best friends and I was like, hey, do you mind? What do you think about driving down to Florida just for like a week, and then we'll drive back? And she was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And when I was there, I was like, you know what? I think my workout routine is stale, and that's why I'm so tired and can't get my head up off the pillow. And so I changed up some of my workouts a bit while I was there, but also found that I was sleeping quite a bit. In the process of doing that, I developed what I thought was a UTI. So I had to go to the bathroom all the time. I had pelvic pain, all of these things.
So symptoms for a few months.
Yep. And then they really started
And
in
how was-
December, started rapidly manifesting.
How is your nutrition? So you were working out, eating well.
So I'm a decent eater.
Okay.
I would say, like, unfortunately, like I do have a sweet tooth, so that's like my downfall. But yeah, it was fine when I would want to eat. So, like, for instance, I showed up in October at one of my guy friends' house, and he had made dinner. And if he's listening to this, he's probably like, yeah, I remember. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. Thanks so much for making the food. And I took 2 bites and I was like, oh man, I'm full. And he was like, you just said you were starving. And I was like, I know, don't waste this. Like, put it in a container and I'm sure I'll get hungry again. And I probably didn't. And I probably ate, like, that weekend that I was visiting, like a bird. And his mom was one of the moms in December that said, like, have you seen a picture of Randalynn? Like, she's really thin. And at that point, I had probably lost about 20 pounds, but I
20
didn't know it yet.
pounds. Well, that's
off of
interesting.
like where I am like
Right.
now.
Like, didn't have 20 pounds to lose.
Right.
So,
And back then, I probably would have been like 10 pounds less than I am now in general, just because like the stress of being a single mom, trying to figure out all of these things, right? Like, you forget to eat, but like not enough that you forget to eat, that like you should be down
20 pounds.
20 pounds.
Well, and so these symptoms, what's interesting is these symptoms are similar to Kyle's symptoms.
So
and
again,
GI
like that
cancer
GI, right.
symptoms, right.
And so I called one of my nurse practitioners and I said, hey, I have a UTI. I got to drive home. Do you mind giving me a prescription? Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to make it. So I started that prescription. And then January 2nd, I went with my dad to the Blues hockey game that was in Busch Stadium that year. And we had like this, we went to the pre-party and everything like that. And I remember one of my friends there was like, are you drinking cranberry juice? And I was like, yeah. Shh, don't tell anybody I'm drinking cranberry and vodka.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, well, that's weird. And I was like, yeah, in my brain, I'm like counteracting the symptoms. But I ended up at urgent care after the game. They gave me Cipro because they were like, well, it must be that the antibiotics aren't working. They actually took an x-ray. I don't know what they took an x-ray of. clearly wasn't going to show anything. And then that didn't work. I had Jackson sitting on my lap again, like probably 120 pounds, maybe if I'm lucky. And he couldn't sit on my lap because it hurt so bad.
It hurt you so bad.
Like where it ends up where the tumor was. I didn't know I had a tumor at that point in time. And so,
And how old were the kids at this point?
he was 2 and she had just turned 7.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, he was 3 and she had just turned 7.
Okay.
And I called the nurse practitioner and she said, listen, like you can come into the office tomorrow, but I'm going to send you to the emergency room. So it's probably better that you
just
go
go right through
tonight. That way you get your emergency room of choice. And I did go to the emergency room.
Drop the kids off at your ex-husband's.
No, my parents were there.
Oh, they were there.
Oh,
Perfect.
actually, the kids were with their dad. So my mom went with me to the hospital. The one doctor like tried to come up with all the things that he thought it was and was
Just by
extremely wrong.
seeing you, touching you, was not doing any scans or
Right.
any,
Hadn't
okay.
done any scans. They did a contrast CT scan and found 2 tumors. So I had one the size of a cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe?
Yeah, that would have been complex. So that means it's complex. So it's hard. It's solid, right? Like you don't know what's in it. The other one was half that size and fluid filled. And they asked me like, do you have an OBGYN on staff here at this hospital? And I said, well, she's not with this hospital, but she can deliver here because this is where I had both of my children. Great, we'll call her. The pain was so bad. I ended up being on a Dilaudid drip.
Was it like, were you?
No. So you could not see it. So I didn't get any of the normal symptoms that later stages of ovarian cancer would have had. So although mine had ruptured, I didn't have.
It ruptured?
Yeah, it had the
ovary?
memory. Well, no, like the tumor itself has like a capsule around the outside of
Okay.
it. And so when they removed it, my OBGYN was pretty much like, hey, no problem. I'll let you know what the path is in 24 hours. This is
Right.
no big deal. 24 hours turned into a week. I had
The waiting is
the waiting is the longer it gets, like, you know, that's not good.
it's horrible.
And both like Chris and Ann had known that I was having this
Yes.
issue. And I remember Ann reached out in advance because knowing Ann, like she's been there, done that, right? And
Yeah.
knew it probably wasn't going to be a good diagnosis
Outcome,
at
yeah.
this point. And she said, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And of course I got that call. But so when they took it out, that's how we kind of knew it was ruptured. Now, whether or not it ruptured inside of me or when they removed it,
We're not
that's up
quite
for debate. But with what I was going to say was with ovarian cancer, it's usually like bloated, like super bloating, but that's usually in the later stages. Inability to eat or feeling full quickly, UTI-like symptoms, so needing to go to the restroom a lot, spotting or irregular periods. And I would have had that, but I had an Implanon, which was that progesterone birth control that they kind of inserted here, which they said was actually lucky I had it when I came back with the endometrial because that kept that from growing. I don't know, whole thing.
Wow.
And then, yeah, so I had some of the symptoms, right? Like I was
These
losing
are
weight.
normal symptoms, right? Like these.
No, but the way that they show up, right? Like the inability to eat, I was
Right.
already stressed. The
Yeah.
spotting was kind of like I was already having that
Well,
because
that's what
of the
I'm saying.
Implanon.
Like
Right.
you can explain them kind of, right?
Right, exactly. And so usually it takes about 6 months for a woman to be diagnosed from the time that her symptoms onset until the time that she's diagnosed, 6 to 9 months. And it's usually, unfortunately, by that point in time, later stages. So 15 to 18% are caught in the early stages, stage 1 or 2 when treatment is effective or most effective. Later stages do make up the majority. So stage 3, stage 4, when it has metastasized to other areas of your body. That makes it way more challenging to
100%.
kind of treat.
And it's similar with pancreatic cancer. It's almost always found late stage. So 2 questions. 1, had cancer crossed your mind?
When they did, I did ask my nurse practitioner, do you think I have cancer, when they asked me to go to the ER, and she said, no way, you're too young. So average age for ovarian cancer is, I I should know this because I'm on several boards, but let's just call it like early 60s, late 50s. It fluctuates. It's kind of going a little bit younger, but I'm going to say late 50s, early 60s. I was healthy. I was active. I was doing all the things that they tell us to do to live this healthy, normal lifestyle. And so she said, "No way, you're too young," was basically the answer I got. Also, the too young. So while they kept me in the hospital after I was in the ER for 2 or 3 days, and then I left, and then I came back and had surgery. I left for like 24 or 48 hours, not long. But they were doing blood draws 2, 3, 4 times a day. Not one time did they draw a CA-125 antigen, which would have worked for my tumor type. There are multiple types of ovarian cancers that all have different tumor markings. So, but had they done the most common one, they would have known that I had ovarian cancer, which could have like
I wonder why.
paused my age. And so the OBG.
Your age is why they didn't do
Yeah.
it.
So,
So this story is so similar to Kyle's, by the way.
Yeah.
What hospital? Do you mind saying?
MOBAP. I know
Okay.
where you were.
Okay.
I got a call from Joanna that was like, "How do I get the transfer?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, I think she can just go ask."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But all that to say, that OBGYN came back later and said, I made a big mistake. You know, I should have done all of these things, but I didn't do them because of your age." And that like really, hey, it stayed with her. At least she knows going forward to like think about all of these things. I didn't know anything about ovarian. It wasn't on my radar. We had a family friend that had passed from it. But it was one of my moms. It was another mom, and she would have been considered young at that time when she passed as well. But yeah, so that's where we were.
Okay. Late stage.
Yep.
You're diagnosed.
Yep.
How old were you?
I was 36.
Okay.
At diagnosis, and when I got the phone call, I waited for my mom to get home. She had run out to get me something to eat because I finally felt like eating, and of course I didn't feel like eating at that time. And so I told her what had happened and that I had a friend on the way that was going to be able to take care of her, but that I had about 2 hours to, number one, process this myself, number two, find a medical team at Siteman because my OBGYN didn't have any connections. Insert Ann Tobin. She was on the patient advocacy board. I don't think she still is, at Siteman. And so Dr. Andrea Hegeman, who those two are like I call them my real life lifesavers. And I always tell Ann, I was like, it's because of you and the way that you supported me that I do the same and try to, when somebody says, "Hey, I was diagnosed, how can you help me?" Like, she prepared me from, number one, finding me someone, because Dr. Hegeman was on the board with her. And literally I was within 2 business days and had surgery within a week of finding out that I had it, which is very fast paced for individuals going through this.
Right.
And so it can feel like if you are newly diagnosed or you become diagnosed, it's usually a 2 to 3 week window before you can even get into a doctor, unless you're like taking an emergency route or you have it in. It's painstakingly slow, and all you want to do is do what you need to do to still be here. And I had 2 young children, and so I knew the chances of it being, I did a bunch of Googling. I knew in the chances of it being early stage were slim to none. I knew that the 5-year survival rate was 45%.
I was going to ask you.
I knew that I was going to be up against a lot, and I didn't know how I was going to do it on my own. But all of these things lined up for me, and I had a friend who knew a friend who just happened to be a gynoc on staff at Siteman Cancer Center here in St. Louis, which we're so fortunate to have.
Yes.
And I got in, and my debulking surgery was full hysterectomy, so
Wow.
including cervix. They removed the omentum, which is usually where the cancer will go next. So that's like this little filter that goes into your intestines. And so if they see it in there, then they usually have to go a little bit through everything else. It's a 6 to 8 hour surgery. They do open you all the way up. So I have I always tell my kids, and they hate this, hey, don't tell me something's awful until you're like gutted like a fish. And they're like, Mom,
Okay,
that's
Mom.
so inappropriate. You're not supposed to say things like this. But everything, I got my pathology back. It couldn't have been any better. So it hadn't spread.
Amazing.
I did have the trickiness of also having endometrial cancer. And then I would start 6 rounds of chemotherapy, and I was a horrible chemo patient. So ended up getting down to about 100, 105 pounds at one point in time.
Randalynn.
Completely bald. I remember my
bless your
daughter asked me to wear my wig, and I would wear it I think I wore it 3 times total while I was sick because chemo makes you hot as it is, and then I was surgically induced menopause, which was just all the
I
things.
know.
And so I would say, yeah, it was challenging.
Yeah.
I'm here on the other side. And July 3rd of 2017 was when I got my no evidence of disease. I've not had any issues. I've had different things come up. So I'm down a gallbladder. I'm all these things, right? Like they have to keep checking and removing things because when you go in for your CT scans and something pops up and you have a family history or a personal history yourself of different things, there's always then these okay, well, we got to go and do this and we got to go and do that. And it, I remember in the first 2 years, it was extremely exhausting. And it's the whole, they told you what to do. I went and did it. And now all these other things are coming up. When am I going to catch a breath? And I think you're constantly trying to figure out your body doesn't work in the same way. I thought my body was fine before. So how do I know when it's telling me I'm sick again? I'm tired, but am I that tired? Oh, I didn't really feel like eating today.
Everything.
Was it the kind of I didn't feel like eating today because I'm sick, or was it and so you start second guessing all of those things, and I think it just becomes how do you navigate all of that? And it takes a while.
Now, how were your children handling all of this? You know, they were young and their mom, how did they handle it?
So, great question. And it's one that I always try to, when I'm talking to a group of moms or people that I know have young children that have reached out. The one thing that I will say is, number one, tell everyone that is going to be around your children. So I sat down and I had conversations with Jackson was at the Goddard School, all of his teachers and staff, here's what's going on. And it's super hard, right? Because they all hear you have ovarian cancer and they know that life expectancy is not going to be great. And so it's a lot of tears on that end, but you're also then trying to keep yourself composed so that they feel
alive
that
in yourself.
You're right.
Totally.
Olivia was in first grade, and so I made sure that that teacher knew, because if they weren't showing me signs at home that something was going on, I wanted for those individuals that were going to be near my children to be able to let me know.
Identify
and then
communicate.
I waited
Totally.
until I had my staging and everything back. So the kids knew I was having surgery. They knew I was gone for a little bit of time. Different family members stepped in while I was there. I remember they came. It was they were young enough that they didn't really know. My
In
room,
the hospital?
Yeah, my room was right outside the helipad.
Yeah.
So that was fun for them. People would drop food and stuff off I was going to eat it, but I didn't. I more gave it to my kids to right, here you go. And then we had the conversation. I had their dad and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, come over because I wanted everybody to hear the words that were coming out of my mouth. So number one, we knew what the kids knew. We knew the words that we were using. And if they had any questions, we could address that together. So my parents were there, they were there, and both of the kids were.
Had someone advised you to do it like this, or was this just you internally, God leading this?
This was me internally, this is what I need to do.
Okay.
I didn't give them any books. They kid books out there. It's really weird. They're kind of some of them are really kind of sad. And I was I don't want for this to be a scary thing. I want for this to be something that they know I'm going to be okay, even though I definitely look like I'm dying
Right.
right? Like
Yes.
I lost all my hair. This was like
Yeah.
cold capping wouldn't have worked for me back then when
Yeah.
it wasn't like a really big thing.
Right.
The type of chemo that they give for ovarian cancer, it's it's gonna be pretty clumpy, right? So you're probably gonna lose it anyways. And then I have really thick hair, so it wouldn't have worked for me anyways.
Right.
So it was one of those. You totally look
Yeah.
like an
It
alien.
was, yes, visually, you looked very sick.
Right.
Now, what about mentally for you? Were you like, I'm not going to die. I'm going to be like, what were you thinking?
You know, to look back on it, like I think once I found out that it was stage 1C, so
Oh, it was stage 1C?
yeah, so stage 1C, so C meaning the tumor had been compromised. It was probably like floating around in here, but hadn't attached on anything. But stage 1, so still had to go through all the rigmarole of like if it was the same as a late stage, but obviously with a better prognosis on the front end of like that front line of treatment working. So I didn't have to like then go to the next, which for ovarian cancer, unfortunately, there isn't like a then go to the next. And so there's
How many
front
standard
line.
of care? That's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
How many standard care treatments
So
are there?
there's one front line. Somebody's going to hear me say this and they're going to be like, no, there's not really. But like there's one traditional front line that you would receive depending on your tumor type. Again, that comes into play. So a couple different tumor types might take a different path, but you can consider yourself like one type of front line, and then they usually they have lots of great, like, so I have one friend who she's stage 4 at this point in time, and they keep getting her with the trials and things that she's done. Like they're able to like keep things going until the next one comes out, right? And so that's kind of like always the goal, right? Like how do you survive long enough to be here for that next one, which is about an 24 month-ish time frame before like, yep, this next one looks like it's going to work, like let's keep going. And so for me though, if I was re-diagnosed now, I've been far enough out that I would qualify to go back through that standard front line. It did work very well for me, right?
It did?
Yeah.
So they did surgery and you did chemo?
Yeah, 6 rounds.
6 rounds.
Yeah, every 3 weeks.
And how did it affect the, and when did they tell you, oh, by the way, you have endometriosis cancer as well?
So it always goes a little something like this. Whenever I either like get a path report or I get a scan back, hey, this looks really great. I have really good news. And we go through all the really good news. And then it's like, and I'm like, oh man, like I've received a text message that says, hey, your right side looks really good. And I'm like, what's wrong with my
the
left?
side? Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's like,
Right.
well, we've got this little spot here that we need to check out. And I'm just like, and then there's been times where like I had to like every 6 months have my thyroid at one point in time, like ultrasound to make sure that like we didn't have to biopsy it and take like pieces of it out. And I was like, did we not see that the first go, like with all these CAT scans? And they're like, well, yeah, but you were going to survive that. Like we were going to deal with this
cancer
later.
in the thyroid?
No, I had a mass there. And so when they're of a certain size, then you got to like monitor it to see if they change and to do all these things, which is why the gallbladder had to come out, because when I had one side, that would have been where I got a text message. I guess it was, she said, your left side looks good. And I was like, what's wrong with the right? And well, there's a spot on your gallbladder.
So we're gonna just take that right out.
We're gonna monitor it for a little bit, and didn't have to monitor it long, and had to come out.
Okay. So the endometriosis was like, you have ovarian cancer. Oh, by the way,
we also found a focus group of endometrial cancer. It's not really of a concern, but we are gonna have to do 6 rounds versus 4 rounds. So that kind of decided it for you. And I was like, okay, great.
was the chemo IV? And then how long between rounds?
3 weeks. So it was about a 6 to 7 hour day for me when I went. So I went into anaphylactic shock on round 1, day 1, about 30 minutes, about 18 minutes in actually. And so for me, it was like, I remember that day thinking like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, if I can't get chemo, I'm not going to survive.
Right.
Like on that whole, am I going to survive? I just told you that like, yeah, I had stage 1C. I felt a lot better, but I do remember that was like one of the things, like my dad wasn't able to be there for the full time. Of course, he left like at the 15-minute mark when they were like, yeah, sir, she got through everything. They should be fine. He was going to go back to the house. And then I went into anaphylactic shock, and my mom, of course, had to call him and like, hey, you gotta get back here. Like, we've got a little bit of a problem, which just means I need more pre-meds. I need a slower drip, all of these things, right? And so you just kind of monitor that and then go from there, which I act like it's no big deal now, but it's actually like going through it. There's a lot of like anxiety in that first round of treatment. You have no idea what to expect. You've only seen maybe, I mean, for me, I would say anything I had really seen was like in the movies. While I had grandparents and things that had gone through chemo, it wasn't like I was there with them, like knowing what it felt like. And so there was all that anxiety anyways, and then that happened, and it just then elevates it. And so it was probably not until I got to like round 3 to where I was kind of like, okay, well, this is what we're going to expect. Like, I came in every day. Everybody laughed at me. I was the youngest one in the room,
Of course.
by like 40 years. No, wait, I was 36. That's wrong. 25 years probably.
Right.
And I like got there early and like lined my chair because Anne told me you're going to need 2 blankets. You're going to need one to line your chair. You're going to need this really big grandma bag. You're going to need, and she had shown up at my door with like all of these things. And so now I actually give like, oh gosh, I keep hitting the mic. I actually give like chemo bags to people because I'm like, here are all the things that like my friend told me I needed, and I did really need these. And so you don't have to take them, but just know that they would be good. So, I would do that. And I remember one time the nurses said like, and then I would go and get my like, yeah, you can go on, you got to have that 15-minute appointment that says, yes, you're good. Go ahead and go. And you get started. And I remember one time the nurses said that one of the other patients walked in and was like, oh, this is so nice. You guys now set these up like this. And they're like, no, don't touch that. That's like her chair. She sits in the corner, even though she's going to sleep the whole time and not talk to anybody. Because I did like that drip started and I was like lights out.
Really?
For probably, I mean, I even went home and it was 5 days. I probably didn't move.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now with anaphylactic shock, forgive my ignorance.
Yeah.
What happens? Like what happens?
So it can do a lot of different things. Mainly your airways close off. And so I started to get really warm in it, and I started to notice that I was like coughing. But I wasn't coughing because I had something in my throat. I was coughing more because it was my body's like way of telling me like, hey, you can't breathe. And I remember I told my mom, and I always brought I didn't. My mom always had like a large group of her mom friends that would come with her. And at that time it was pre-COVID. So you could like also where I was, like, there wasn't a restriction on how many people could be there, and as long as they like kept the peace, right?
Yeah.
Well, they brought food and snacks for anybody else that was there, and they would talk to all the ladies, and so they did that while I slept. But I remember I told my mom, I was like, hey, Mom, I don't feel right. Can you go get the nurse? Who literally were in an open room, is just like right over there. And then it progressed, and I really don't know what happened, but I do remember like one nurse came over and started just like stopped the drip and started just like injecting probably some form of steroid to try to reverse it into this. The other one went down the hallway to go get my gynoc, like, and pull her out of a room because they had to like work through all of this. And I remember they just kept saying like, you're going to be okay. Please don't worry. You're going to be okay. And I was like, was that it? Like, we can't do this anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably scared the living daylights out of you.
But it's common. Like, I know other young survivors that have had something similar happen to them.
Interesting. I've not heard of that before.
Watch me say like common, and like, again, maybe it's in the younger age bracket that it seems to be more common, because I do know I'm a pretty amongst what would have been at the time like that, a young survivor group I was in. That would have been something common that several of them said happened to them as well.
Okay. Wow. So you get through that. So then you have to do pre-meds for the next round. So how quickly did they get you in for, like, because that wasn't considered your round 1, right? You only had.
Yeah, I did. They kept it going. So I went from about 8 a.m. until 3 p.m.
Oh, so after they put the steroids.
Yeah, I kept going.
They gave you meds and then they put the chemo back on. Okay.
Yeah. And so then we just knew, like, what did I have to do here going forward? My drips were slower, unfortunately, which just meant for a longer day. In the scheme of things.
Okay. So 6 rounds. What happens? Your tumor's shrinking. You're getting scans in the middle of it. How's
so my tumors were all removed. So they were large masses. So
both of them.
Yeah. So they were able to. The one that was the fluid fill that would have been on my left side was benign. The right side was malignant. We didn't go through that. That's my
Okay.
fault in the
Okay.
story. And so once those were both taken out, my visible tumors were gone.
Okay.
What then we would monitor like progress on was based off of my CA 125, which if it's below 30, 35 range, 35 is considered normal. I would probably have a panic attack if mine got up to 35. But we kept it below substantially, like it just kept getting lower and lower and lower every time we did a round.
Okay.
Now I hover around 7 to 8. I haven't seen double digits since halfway through chemo.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It's
So
one of those
treatment
things though, they
worked.
draw it and I'm always like, and then they say, when do I worry? And they say if it doubles. And I'm like, if it doubles, like I'm still like under so how
Yeah.
far are you going to let it go? And they're like, well, whatever's normal for you.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So 6 rounds, your tumor marker's super low. So
Yeah.
then what happens? Once you're,
Yeah.
what are you mentally? You're like, I'm through this,
So I think what they don't prepare you for is like you have to go every 3 months. And so for that first 2 or 3 years, then you shift to like 6 months. I go annually now. And it's the whole like I didn't get a 3 month like, hey, we don't have to do anything for quite a while because actually when I went in for my like my appointment after my last round of treatment, I remember the resident, she would always come in first and I was like, hey, I want you to know that I know that this is all in my head and I'm crazy, but I'm going to preface what I'm about ready to say with that. And I
Yeah.
need for you to know that I'm going to get this in check. But I'm having to go to the bathroom again like I did whenever I was first diagnosed and I'm feeling that pressure and I can't tell if there's something there and I know that there can't be something there, but like something's not right.
right.
So they already knew because on a scan it had shown up. So
They already knew what?
so part of the debulking procedure is they remove a substantial amount of your lymph nodes to biopsy them.
Correct.
And so in doing that, your lymphatic system, your main parts of it are armpits, groin area. You have some around your abdomen, and then you've got these ones up here. And yes, I know I missed several in between. But in doing that, you can have like when a lymph nodes are removed, a lymphocele can kind of form, which is basically a pocket that forms that starts collecting all this lymphatic fluid that isn't a part of the lymph system. And for me, it had gone exactly where my large tumor was. And so I had and of course it was pressing down. So they usually don't do anything about it because it can at times resolve itself
Right.
unless like the patient is actually like knowing what's going on. And
Right.
for me, like, and it was just, I will tell you, it was very validating that I wasn't crazy because like you do like, you're hypersensitive
Of
to everything.
course. Your brain plays tricks on you. You have PTSD.
Yeah.
It's of course.
And so I did have to have like a drain placed and then they were doing which sometimes those would have to normally stay for a substantial amount of time month-wise, maybe up to a year, which wasn't going to be fun because I had to wear it like on my leg and it was different. Plus I had the catheter and everything, but there was a trial that was going on at the time. I was like I would say it was under 10 of us that had gone through it, but they had good success rate with it. So I said, sure thing, like, let's go ahead and try this. It worked.
So the trial was reducing the fluid buildup in the lymph system, in the lymph
It
node.
was closing off. So they had a way that they could clip the lymph node that was dripping, or it was actually the stem of so where a lymph node would have been, it didn't properly seal. And so the lymphatic fluid was just kind of dripping off of that, which was how it was getting in there.
Got it.
BJC had at the time a trial that they were using with poppy seeds and a few other things. I'm definitely minimizing like what this trial was. But they did that and, 2 different procedures I had to do. One initially to place it and then another one to do something else. But it worked for me within a week.
Amazing.
And I was able to become drain free. And so I
Awesome.
only had it for about 4 to 6 weeks, where they were thinking it might have been like 6, 12, 18 months, depending on how long my body took to like figure it out on its own.
Yeah. Now, what happens if you don't? What if you didn't address
So your
it?
body will just like, in theory, it should absorb this, and you would probably never know that it was ever there. But I knew it was there because I was having symptoms from it being there.
Okay. But it can't.
It's not going to harm you in any way.
Okay.
It's just an annoyance
Okay.
that for me had to be like, unfortunately, resolved.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going every 3 months, getting scans, blood work. And
Yep.
things are looking good.
Things are looking good.
Okay. So you're like, now, did you remain working throughout all of this? Or did
I did not work during treatment.
Okay.
I went back. January was when everything kind of went down. And so I didn't come back to work until August. So I gave myself about a month after, 6 weeks after treatment stopped. I got through all of these other things. And it was hard for me when I went back, because I remember like all of these things kept creeping in that I wasn't like prepared for. I was like, oh yeah, I can come back to work. Oh yeah, I can be a full-time employee. Oh yeah, I can contribute to like a team environment. And it was like, I was always having to ask somebody to pick up the slack for me. It felt like, and that's super hard, especially when you're like the people I work with would tell you that I'm probably super like, I move really quickly. I'm an independent worker. I have high expectations of myself and those that I work with. And so when I can't contribute at the level that I think I'm supposed to contribute at, like I take that personally. And so that was super hard, like for me going back, because it was every 3 weeks. And then my dad got sick, and then, so I got to like balance that. And then,
So how quickly? So I have so many questions. So was it cognitively, or just you were tired and slower, or what? When you went back to work,
so some of it's cognitively. So,
Okay.
right. So you have, chemo brain is a for real thing. So
chemo brain is a for real thing.
and I will tell you, my brain is still wired differently, so I don't see numbers the same way as you used to
really?
in the past. So I confuse dates, times. I've even missed a plane flight because I reversed and I totally broke down in the Kansas City airport, and they were so nice to me. I saw I think I looked at the arrival time thinking it was the departure time, which would have never been something I would have ever had an issue with in the past, right? But so I double, triple check everything. Also, like for me to say I have an issue with numbers, I do work in finance.
Oh gosh.
And I do not manage people's monies though. So
Just a fair warning.
fair warning.
Yeah.
I'm not managing any people's
I'm not
monies
managing your
with
money and
this
screwing us
this
up.
issue. But for me, like I will double and triple check like anything I'm doing on that front, because I'm like, man, I don't know. That number doesn't look right. The kids know.
So is it like dyslexia almost?
Almost, but like that's the only area it shows up.
That's
So it's
so
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's chemo brain's a real thing. Exhaustion is a real thing. Just trying to focus. It's so hard to like figure all of these things out while like trying to also reintegrate into maybe a system that now I can probably say like you go to work and there are things that are considered a big deal, and I'm like, oh, is it really a big deal? Because like
Totally.
I still challenge. I'm still like to this day like challenged with like, guys, we really. And there are
100%.
days where I catch myself saying like, really, girl, come on, get that in check. Like that is not that big of a deal.
Yes, that's
And
totally
so then
a
I
thing.
like, I find myself just like going on forever, and then like I have like a big readjustment. Like I didn't share this earlier, like in the things I've been going through this year, but we most recently had Jackson has a severe eye injury, and right now he is unable to see out of his right eye. So we're at Children's Hospital. Freak accident happened.
Seriously.
And so like all of these things were going on at work, and I'm like, I have a child who cannot see out of his one eye. Like his life is sports, and he cannot try out for spring sports, and like all these things, right? And so I just think it's everybody's perspective on things. Number one, like also like what has happened in your life, right? And so that leads us all to have different perspectives. And so I try to always remember that when my perspective on things is going to be different because of the things that I have gone through and the things that my family has gone through
Absolutely.
than Susie sitting over here in cube number
Correct.
B.
Right.
And maybe for her, this is like a big deal when I'm looking at it thinking like, man, I wish that was my problem today.
Yeah. I know. I find that with my children when they make, and they're children,
Right.
kids, when they make big deals out of stuff. And sometimes I say, and whether or not this is right or wrong, I'm like, your sister taking that doll from you is not a big deal. Do you want to, we want to talk about what is a big deal?
Right.
And then we kind of go into it about, and so I don't know, it may be damaging my children, but I'm the same
I do the
way.
same
And
thing.
it's like, it's not that I lack empathy or we lack empathy. It's just like on the scale of it's a big deal and not a big deal. Like
Right.
our scale is so
My
different.
scale is so completely different. And
Right.
I do the same thing. So
Yeah.
I'm always like, is somebody are you dying? Like
Correct.
literally that's what I say to them.
Yep.
And they're like, Mom, that's not fair. And I'm like, I get that that's not fair, but like also like,
We can work
let's
through
level
this.
set here. Like
Correct.
we definitely have more than one time forged through like somebody getting a life altering decision, guys, where we have somebody's life on the line here. And we most recently did that with both of my parents were diagnosed with different cancers after I was.
Yeah, can we talk about that? How far
Yeah.
after your no evidence of disease?
Yeah.
Your dad was
2 weeks after.
2 weeks after.
So he was having symptoms when I was going through treatment, but again, he was stressed out. He was
Of course.
sick. So he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
2
in
weeks after.
July of 2017. So I received no evidence of disease on like the 3rd. I think he showed up maybe that same week.
You're kidding. What
to
were his
say that.
symptoms?
So he had back pain. So interestingly enough, like usually that will show up like in your like collarbone
Clavicle?
area,
Yeah.
even like underneath your armpits. His, when you did his PET scan, he didn't light up until you were underneath his collarbones. And it was only his like torso down to, again, he didn't have it, his groin area wasn't really affected. It was more like all of his trunk area. So that didn't show up in the same way that most things would for him. And that diagnosis had nothing to do with him nor I.
Like it wasn't
Having
genetic.
a genetic mutation. So
Okay.
here's where I go with that. He has life exposure to different pesticides. So big family, grew up on the golf course. He also has been a pilot. That was not his career. That was his extracurricular activity. From the time he was 15 until he's still actively flying here and there from time to time. But he, for spray planes for agriculture, was like the guy waving the flag so that the plane sprayed the right area, which also means that he sprays you as an individual on the ground. He doesn't like for me to say these things, but that's definitely why we think it happened.
Well, and it's a reality, and I think people need to
Yeah.
hear that. Like,
Yeah,
with everybody going organic and worrying about the pesticides, like, truly,
truly.
you can see on a map.
Oh, that latest map, like
Of the
we grew
United
up in
States.
Illinois
Yeah.
too. So, right, like I didn't grow up in Missouri, specifically the most recent one that came out that is like the darkest blue that you can possibly
Yeah.
have. Like I grew up in one of those counties.
Uh-huh.
And so it's a real life thing. You can go and look at the number of cancer diagnoses
Yep.
within that specific county, and it's astronomically different.
It really, truly is.
yeah. And so that one probably was more environmentally for him, why he would have gotten that. But then he also did receive diagnosis of prostate cancer within that same year of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And that's kind of where his familial history kind of comes into play with mine. So I had full genetic testing done when I was diagnosed, including Lynch syndrome, because most of the time you wouldn't find ovarian and endometrial together unless that individual had Lynch syndrome. I don't. So there's a 5% false negative reading with that. I was tested twice, just to make sure. His mother, my grandmother on my dad's side, had breast cancer 3 times, 3 different types. She and I shared the same genetic mutation that at the point in time was not linked to cancer, still isn't to date. FYI, not all genes are identified at this point in time.
Right.
And so I took the risk to say, yeah, go ahead and test outside of that BRCA range so we could see what was going on. When my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I waited a little bit and then did some research. And by a little bit, like for me, a little bit is that I didn't like instantaneously click on something. I paused, I breathed. I probably wait within that month of him being diagnosed, and then kind of said like, what happens? What are the chances of like a daughter having ovarian cancer if the dad has had prostate cancer? And it's actually substantial for ovarian and breast cancer.
Good to know.
So then my oncologist, Dr. Andrea Hageman, she was doing and she may still be doing it. I'm not sure. I've not kept up. But at the time, she was doing a genetic waterfall research program. So basically, it's like, if you know this mom has cancer, has the genetic mutation, how do you then look at the rest of the family? Either you could go up,
But
right,
up
up
or
the
down,
fall or down the fall,
Right.
to then test the remaining family members
Right.
to see who may also have that. And then what preventative measures could you put in place to either screen those members regularly, maybe do some kind of preventative test or surgery, and then see what their diagnosis would be, right? And so I have a friend that she was diagnosed late stage. She's unfortunately no longer with us, but she did this. Her son, I think, has the genetic mutation. So another thing, just because I have a gene mutation doesn't mean it came from my mom. And just like in this boy, he has a gene mutation. It didn't just come from his dad. My cancer history is going to come from my dad's side. So she did a large panel on my dad because she knew that like what popped on mine, she knew what popped on my grandma's.
She was your dad's oncologist as well?
No, so she was able to do the research for him.
Got it.
On the genetic
Got it.
testing side of things.
Okay.
And so what she did, like the largest panel you could do, because she was like, I just want something to pop other than this one.
Correct.
And of course, the same one popped for him. That is for me and for his mom. And so because of that, we decided to make the decision that I needed to go be seen by breast oncology department sooner rather than later. And I already knew what I was going to do. So I had 2 young children. It was 2018. I was like 15 months out. I had a preventative double mastectomy in October of 2018, 2 weeks after. I finished my first Pedal the Cause ride, which I did the Century ride that year, and probably went from like my best shape to like needing to do my double mastectomy. And so, and that comes with its own little challenges of like,
Yeah.
man, I'm doing something really proactive and I'm empowering myself and I'm doing these things, but dang, this is really different.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Recovery. I just had one of my good girlfriends, actually a cancer widow. She was diagnosed right before Christmas with breast cancer.
Yeah.
Her husband had esophageal cancer that went away, came back, and then passed. Her mother had breast cancer, so she was getting regular mammograms. But she went ahead. It was a very small, tumor and stage 1, but she went ahead and had a double mastectomy, and her recovery was really difficult.
It's challenging. And so like hers would have been, she probably, because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, wouldn't have been able to do the nipple sparing. I was able to, and then I mentioned my mom had cancer too. So my mom last February, 2025 was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. She has no genetic mutations, all environmentally for the reasons that she has it, just because of where we grew up. She actually did really well with all of hers treatments, surgeries, everything like that. But it's challenging, especially I think for those that have never had like any kind of surgery. Like I'm not going to minimize it. I thought it was a walk in the park, comparatively speaking to what I had already been through.
With chemo.
Well, and I had that full,
true.
I had
Okay.
like a full abdominal, which if anybody's ever to like do anything abdominally, like it's challenging to have to recover from. And so, you feel like you have an elephant on your chest is the best way that I can say it. And you can't like move your arms. Like you have T-Rex arms, like literally you just like here to here for like 6 weeks.
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
Mentally
it's
what that
different.
would do for you.
Yeah.
Especially if you're up and active and used to,
Yeah.
and that's what with my girlfriend
Yeah.
Lakeisha. She's a go-getter and she's a solo parent and she's got a high up, she's a, very successful businesswoman. And so watching her go through that was, it's eye-opening. It's really eye-opening. So you did the double mastectomy. Did you do reconstructive at the same time?
No, so I couldn't. So I was
Okay.
so thin, they couldn't have even gotten like a small implant in. And so I had to do, it was 2 stages of that. And while I was between surgeries was when I found out that I actually had to have my gallbladder removed. I had to have it removed 3 weeks after my double mastectomy. And so maybe it was 2 weeks after, doesn't matter. I still had open wounds. I remember going in and the nurse was like, "Do you have any open wounds?" And I was like, "Yeah, did you not look at my chart?"
Yeah, like
And I was,
a lot of open
I was
wounds.
like, "Girl, like this is not," and she's like, "Do you have a port?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Yeah, you do." And I was like, "No, I don't." Like that's if you've had expanders, that was what I had to do. There's a disc that looks very much like a port, which is how they expand them. And I was like, "Trust me, I know I don't. It was over here." And yeah, it was, that year was a lot. And that year was a lot.
Well, yeah, so 2025, this last year.
Oh no, so that was 2018 when I did all that.
2018, your dad was diagnosed.
And he was 2018. He would have gotten diagnosed again because it was like summer of 2018. His prostate was 2000. No, I'm sorry. His non-Hodgkin's was 2017. His prostate was 2018. I had double mastectomy in fall of 2018. And then we got 7 years of just trying to live as like a
7
family
years of-
with cancer, surviving. And then my mom got the diagnosis. So we're a family of 4. I do have a brother. He has not been diagnosed with cancer to date. But know that with a large family history of cancer, that, his chances are substantially higher. The one thing that I always say is like, while genetic testing is great, it gives us knowledge into what kind of treatments to use, because they're able to see based on genetic makeup what works really well, what doesn't. It gives you information to be able to proactively make decisions, and things like that. But it only makes up 5 to 10% of all cancer diagnoses are actually from genetic mutations.
That's interesting.
And so given that, I always tell everybody, like anytime I go in, and I had such a great relationship with my oncologist, and I still do, that she's super easy to talk to, right? So anything that was changing, like I walk in and she's like, "So how are things going?" And I'll just like word vomit on her. And she's like, "Oh my gosh." She's like, "Okay, but this is really good." And it lets us make informed decisions. And so when they ask, like, give your family history, that doesn't mean just like your mom or your grandma, like that means your entire family. And so for me, while it would have been at the beginning between my grandma and I, you couldn't have really like made a direct correlation. She hadn't had genetic testing done. I hadn't at that point in time. It wouldn't have been showing up anywhere. Right? Like, then you start to piece everything together and it does actually start to make a connection. But just sharing about your family history is huge with everything.
Okay. Wow, that's, all good information. And it's interesting that only 5 to 10% of...
Depends on the type.
Oh, depends on the type. Okay. But
I mean, like still within that range, regardless of the type. That's why there's kind of that flex.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about what you're doing now.
Yes.
So you have been a huge advocate.
Yes.
Of, tell us more. I would love for you to share.
So when I was diagnosed, I couldn't figure out, like, number one, I didn't want to deal with all the phone calls. I didn't want to have to deal with everything. And so I had a blog that actually walked through my story, started social media. I wouldn't have had any back then outside of like Facebook, but that was like, I didn't hardly do anything with it except like keep in touch with people.
Right.
And so the blog plus the social media platforms actually became the way I shared my story, but also then shared a little bit more about ovarian cancer signs and symptoms. If you look at my Instagrams or anything now, I've been on a bit of a retreat from those, but we'll be kicking those back up just because I've got a lot going on advocacy wise. So
Awesome.
I used to be on the board for St. Louis Ovarian Cancer Awareness here in St. Louis. Would have stepped back from that about 2 years ago. But if you're listening and you have a gynoc need in that cancer space, St. Louis Ovarian Cancer is great. Like, it has a lot of resources for if you're in need of financial support, if you're in need of meals, if you're in need of a mentor. So others that have been diagnosed that are similar to what you're going through, they do have those resources
Amazing.
available. I now sit on the board for National Ovarian Cancer Coalition out of Dallas.
Awesome.
I just joined the board this year and super honored
Yeah.
to be able to do that. But I am very active with their Team Teal, which is their endurance platform. So endurance athlete platform. They do marathons, hiking, cycling. I don't run, but I do the hiking and the cycling, which probably was something I didn't do prior to being diagnosed as much, but I started to think about it. I had a friend, I lost her in December of 2019, but she was super adventurous. She opened so many of our eyes to like what our lives could be. And 10 months after I finished my last round of chemo, I did my first rim to rim of the Grand Canyon. And she actually made it partway in with us, but then knew that she'd need to go back out. And then after I did that, I did a couple of other adventure things. And then 2023, summited Mount Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
And then I'm going to do a big trek in Peru, the Asangati Trail, which is 5 passes at about 17,000 feet
Awesome.
this summer. So super exciting. And I just keep adding to the list.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So really it's advocacy and patient support.
Yeah.
Do you guys do anything with research?
We do. So SLOCA and NOCC both give to different national organizations that fund research that's going on. So SGO, I don't know what the S is, but the G is the gynecological oncology. They fund research programs that are at different local teaching hospitals throughout. So St. Louis, California, think of all the major cities, New York, Texas. We do a whole bunch there. And so while we're not actively in the space of coming up with like, what is that next thing, we are in the space of how can we see what's out there and being proposed and help to fund that. And so super similar to like what we do with Pedal the Cause locally here, just more at that national level. But both NOCC and SLOCA give to those organizations and outside of that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, gives you purpose, right? You feel
Oh,
like
100%.
right. Yes.
I always say, like, I think the world gets wrapped up around like, oh, I have this survivor's guilt. Like, I'm still here. Why am I still here? Why is so and so gone? And they were such a better person than I was, or like things of that nature, right? But what they're missing out on is actually seeing like, yo, you're still here, so you have like a survivor responsibility, or a sense of responsibility. And I think that's more like the realm that I fall in. So
Yes.
I'm here.
Right.
What is it that I can do
Right.
to either advocate, create awareness, or like even give hope? And so a lot of that is life after cancer is extremely hard. It does not mean that, number one, your life is fully defined by that cancer treatment
Right.
that you had. But number two, there's so many things that you can do afterwards
Yes.
that it didn't limit you, because as long as you have an open mindset, it did not limit you, and it's not going to limit you. I'm never going to be like, my cardiovascular system's shot because of early menopause and the chemo, right? So I'm never going to be that person that crosses the finish line first, but I will always and have always cross the finish line within the allotted time that's needed, usually middle of the pack. And so I think
Yeah.
I'm not a professional athlete. I never thought of myself that way, but I am, I don't know, like a rookie, more than a rookie, but like
Yeah.
mediocre endurance athlete.
I love it.
So it's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
what you've been through and what you're doing, and it all matters. And I
Yeah,
think for those of
100%.
you that are listening, who want to get more involved in either pancreatic cancer or ovarian cancer, really any cancer, don't be afraid to reach out to us and
Yeah,
to search,
100%.
right, to search online, because there are ways to help. There's ways, yes, to donate, to fundraise, to volunteer, to spread awareness. I mean, even as simple as resharing,
Yeah.
resharing our posts. And, I feel an obligation and a calling and very passionate about creating more awareness and research funding for pancreatic cancer
Yeah.
research. And where I'm about to launch something, me and about 10 other widows or family members,
Which I cannot wait to see what it is.
on Friday. So we are launching a huge campaign, which will be amazing because Friday is Kyle's 3-year anniversary. So there are ways to get involved, but I also don't want people to feel guilty. So some people who survive cancer or caretakers or family members don't want to revisit it, don't want to go down that path.
And I think that's 100% okay.
And that's okay.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I don't want people to feel guilty, but if you feel called to get involved and make a difference, there are plenty of opportunities. And I want people to realize that this is something that's really important. The government is the number one funder of cancer research.
Yep.
It is less than 1% of their overall budget.
Yep.
The NIH is the leg of or arm of the government that distributes that money, and it's less than 7% of their budget that goes to cancer research. So because of that, that's why there are so many organizations that ask for funding, because we cannot rely on the government for that.
No.
If we want to see a change and provide more treatments, have more treatments available, we need to fund those.
Has to come from private.
It has to come from private funding. And it's not, I always say this, it doesn't have to be one person providing everything, but if everybody can look around their lives, their family members, their circles, and pick one cancer even, just to help, again, advocate, create awareness, give a little bit, right? I know a lot of people tithe, a lot of Christians tithe. They give 10% of their income. And I was talking to my dad about this because he's a huge Catholic, and they absolutely have been doing this. And I was asking him about, the breakdown, what he does and what he suggests, because it's something that's been on my heart lately. And he says they do 5%. This is what their church encourages: 5% to the church, and then 5% to an organization
I love that.
of your choice, because it's God's work.
Right.
Right. And we're all brought on this earth to be together, to work together. We're all in this together. So I highly recommend people think about that, pray about that, and look into the cancer of your choice to help move the needle on treatments, because we can move mountains. We've seen it happen. And together, who knows what we can do.
Exactly.
So I always ask my podcast guests at the end of the podcast to share one thing they want people to take away from this podcast.
Yeah.
So if you have one thing that you'd like to share.
Sure. So it's going to be around ovarian cancer awareness. Number one, signs and symptoms. I kind of went over earlier. And so that's going to be bloating, feeling full quickly, UTI-like symptoms. So having to go to the restroom frequently, irregular bowel movements, and your periods are off in some way, shape, or form. Those 5 things could be anything. The other thing for everybody to keep in mind is there is no preventative screening test in place for ovarian cancer to date. So your pap smear is not screening for that. And so
really
when
good to
you're
know.
going for your annual exams, that is not being covered. And so just like we're trying everything. It's one of the big things for research. I think the hardest part with that is that it's not one type of cancer that you're screening for. There's ovarian cancers, actually ovarian cancers. And so that's going to be my big takeaway, is that I didn't know any of these things. And so for me, like, I really want for other women, anyone with ovaries, to be aware. If you have ovaries, you have a chance of being diagnosed with ovarian cancer, regardless of your age, race, how you identify, where you grew up. It's just a thing.
It's a thing. It's good to know.
Yeah.
And real quick about Pedal the Cause, registration is open. We just had a team captain summit at
I
True
saw that.
Fusion. Yes, it was amazing. So we raise money here in St. Louis for all different types of cancer.
Yes.
It is a bike ride. You can bike. There's various courses, spin. You can do it virtually. You can hike a mountain, whatever you want to do. It's the weekend of the 19th and 20th of September here in St. Louis. So you'll be hearing more about that as days, for days to come. But they are offering $100 off of registration right now.
Awesome.
So just want to do that little plug for Pedal the Cause. All that money does go to Siteman. It is not specific to a certain cancer, so it's separate from what I do and what I promote. But it is an amazing organization, and actually, fun fact: Pedal the Cause initially gave funds to Dr. Lim to seed the study that he did on the mice.
Yeah.
So that of the treatment that Kyle got. So Pedal the Cause is very near and dear to my heart. And Team Kyle has been really involved.
Yeah.
And also your team.
Yeah, we're Gynoc Teal on Wheels.
Gynoc Teal on Wheels.
That's a lot to say.
It is a lot to say. But if you want to join our team, you can help fundraise, you can ride, you can do all the things, volunteer. So anyway, a little plug for Pedal the Cause. Thank you so much for coming on today.
This was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was
Sharing
really
your
fun.
wisdom and being open and vulnerable.
Yep.
It's truly
100%.
It's going to impact people's lives. I have no doubt. So
Awesome.
all that you're doing and will do. Thank you for all of those of you who have watched today. Welcome. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Yes We Can podcast. Look forward to this it's on my Facebook, on LinkedIn and YouTube, and then will be published this Thursday on all the podcast channels or platforms that you listen to. We'll see you next week.
What if you could start your day feeling loose, relaxed, and ready? Deep hydrotherapy right in your backyard. Relax with your family or friends, or work out with our Michael Phelps Edition Swim Spas. Worried about maintenance? We have factory-trained service nearby whenever you need it. Plus, we're here for you long-term if you have any questions or need to refill supplies. You can even test spas at our showrooms. Spas and More, A+ rated, locally owned for 20 years. We put the ah in spa. What if you could start your day feeling loose, relaxed, and ready? Deep hydrotherapy right in your backyard. Relax with your family or friends, or work out with our Michael Phelps Spas. Worried about maintenance? We have factory-trained service nearby whenever you need it. Plus, we're here for you long-term if you have any questions or need to refill supplies. You can even test spas at our showrooms. Spas and More, A+ rated, locally owned for 20 years. We put the ah in spa.